It's an honor and a privilege to introduce our main speaker of the evening, Lady Jayne. Yeah.
Hi, they call me Lady Jayne because I am an alcoholic, and I don't know if it was to make fun of me or to give me hope or give me a goal. But at that time, my home group was the Valley Club at noon. I've been a nooner, I guess, all my life. And they had about 150 people in that room. And if you sat on this side, you had to, the first 30 days, you had to state your name and your disease. But if you sat on this side, you had to keep the cotton out of your ears and in your mouth. And of course, unfortunately, I was on the side that had to state my name and that I was an alcoholic. The problem is, I came from straitjackets and shock therapy, and the only thing that shock therapy did for me was cost me my back teeth. It didn't make me smarter. It didn't make me stop drinking. But that was the way they dealt with alcoholics back then. By the way, my sobriety date, I'm not sure. Figure it out yourself. It was, I'm not good with numbers. I burned that part of my brain. But I have 42 years sobriety as of last month. Thank you. You know, I tell people when I can't sleep, I start a new gratitude list. I had to do a gratitude list every day, and it had to be different than the day before. And so tonight, my gratitude list is way different. I can't get over this church, Journey United Methodist Church, opening up their arms to us. You know, this is such a beautiful place. And when you walk out of here, it makes me feel so spiritual, like I'm a little closer to God, you know? And I'm just grateful for this place. And it takes a lot of hands to set this up and to make it work and then to break it all down. Did I just disconnect me? Sorry. And we have a chef who gives us a buffet for free. I mean, that's enough reason to drive all the way up here, if you ask me. So, and I want you to know I did not volunteer for this. I don't know if my sponsor, Keith Thomas or Ron, who came up with this idea to have me speak. But, oh, thanks, Gail. In 42 years, I think I've only spoke twice. And both times, I didn't even make it to 20 minutes. So I know I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to share my experience, strength, and hope. And on the way walking up here, halfway being carried, thank you, Paul, my chauffeur, for helping me. I ask God, please, to deafen the ears of anybody if I say something that would cause them to stumble, okay? Because that would break my heart. And I want to especially thank the men in this program. From day one, they loved me, They hugged me even when I wouldn't let them. I would just coil up. It didn't matter to them that I had chunks of vomit all over me and that I had rashes and sores all over my body from detoxing from party favors and alcohol. And it didn't matter to them that I was not a vision for you, that's for darn sure. The women stayed away. They talked about me. They said I was never going to make it. And somehow the men just made me their project. My first sponsor, that was at the Valley Club. And of course, on Saturdays, we went to the Nest. And there they carried guns and knives and everything, and I fit right in. And looking back, early sobriety was exciting. Living through it was hell, okay? And I sat on my hands because my sponsor told me to sit on my hands. Our meetings, we had to be there a half hour early and stay a half hour late. And our meetings were an hour and a half. And I would sit on my hands and I would just rock back and forth. And one day my sponsor touched my shoulder and said, "Stop that. People are going to think that you're mentally ill." Well, I didn't want anybody to think I had mental problems, you know? And so I sat straight as a board for 2 hours and my back would hurt so badly. But I didn't want anybody to think I was crazy, right? Couldn't speak my name. Definitely could not say the word alcoholic. And I had a resentment because I thought Bill W. and Dr. Paul put Alcoholic Anonymous and some other word in there just to see how much better we were getting as we stayed longer. There were 9 of us that came in. I'm the only one that's still alive. Men took them out. They thought they were too young. There were the AA predators who told them that they were too pretty. But I had a man sponsor, and he was 6'4", and they were terrified of him. And so we had no relationships in the first year. When I got my first year cake, all these guys were lined up at the wall, and I thought, "What are you doing there?" And they go, "Well, we were waiting till you get your 1 year." And so then my sponsor shared, and he explained to them that the reason they're not allowed to date me was for their benefit, not mine. They were the one who would be in trouble. I want to thank Mike and YouTube. Can you imagine YouTube doing this for us? How cool is that? And when the pandemic hit, I thought I was going to lose my mind. I slept for 2 weeks, and I thought it'd be over by then, and it wasn't, as you know. And Mike Mulligan and this guy, John and on, we would go every day and meet in the dark at a place in Commercial Center because the owner had time in the program and he let Mike have a key. And we would meet in the dark and we would have our meetings. And the cops were so cool, they would come a half hour after the meeting was over and say, "What's going on in there?" And I'd go, "Nothing, would you like some coffee?" Because I would make coffee at home and bring it. But of course, there were no bathrooms open or restaurants, so they never got to have coffee because they were afraid. Happy Jack. Well, I was coming in from California, and I was at Whiskey Pete's, and I could count to 21 by then. And so I was sitting at a table, but I was hitting on 26 and 28, so maybe I wasn't too good at counting yet. And we're everywhere. One of the dealers was in AA, and he called the Tide Club, and he goes, "You better come and get her. She is spiraling." And Happy Jack and Charlie made coffee at the Tide Club for the noon meeting, and they jumped in Jack's Cadillac and drove all the way down to Whiskey Pete's, threw me in the car, and got us all the way back before the meeting was starting. And they used to make coffee in those big coffee urns, you know, and they were the coffee makers. And I was upset because they left my money on the table. And so Charlie said, "Don't worry, we're saving your life, and the money will come later." And I still go to that Thai club every Sunday, almost without fail, at the 11 o'clock meeting. I like the Floating Big Book, and I almost live at Quality Air because Marilyn brings the greatest goodies, and we always have treats there, and she always makes sure everything is spotless and ready for us. And when I go off on my tyrants because somebody said something or did something I don't like, her personality would just say, "Well, you know, maybe they think," or "It's okay," you know. And it's funny because it doesn't matter how much time we have, you know, they always say out of the mouths of babes, you know, and I get to watch a lot of you get sober. And yet it seems like you're all smarter than me, and you're all getting better faster than I did, that's for sure. And I just, I want to thank the old timers for coming back, even though they had sobriety. Of course, I keep coming back too, but I come back to find out I don't want to miss anything. So I keep coming back just to find out what's going on in your life so I could get a vicarious thrill because mine's getting kind of boring at my age. But, you know, although now boring is nice. Like Marilyn says, I came in pieces and now I'm at peace. And you know, I used to think that peace was boring. So I would do things if I had a moment where my head wouldn't stop talking. And if I had a blank moment, I would say to the person across the room, "Do you know what so-and-so said about you?" And then I would just sit back and watch the fireworks begin, you know. And my sponsor told me, "You're not allowed to stir the shit." So, and every time I would try and tell my sponsor something, he would say, "Who said that? When did they say that? And what did they say before and after that?" And I would get so frustrated that I just stopped. There's no point in gossiping if nobody's going to listen. And and we have this guy, he goes to the 7 a.m. meeting too, but his name is Paul on the Wall, because he always sits on the wall. And you know, I used to come in because right before I'd come in, I'd hear the news on the radio. And I would come in and go, "Wow, do you know this happened? Do you know that happened?" And he would say, "This stops now. This is an AA room. We talk about recovery. We don't talk about politics. We don't talk about other people." And he cured me of that. So now, since I'm not allowed to talk about politics or people in the rooms, although I'm pretty bad on that last one still, Marilyn will tell you. But the thing is, there's no point in watching the news because I can't change it. It's way above my pay grade. And I'm not allowed to talk about it anymore. And all my friends are in AA. And they're the only ones I'm going to talk to. And if I can't talk to you about politics, well, then I may as well read the big book instead, and I can talk to you about something I read there. You know, otherwise I have nothing to say. Oh, perish the thought. I couldn't even imagine not having anything to say. So I love that some people, let me text them and send them these little, I think they're called memes or I don't know what they're called. Anyway, these little sayings every morning. And some people in my own family say, please don't do that. We don't want to hear about God. You know, just give me a break. Okay. And one of them's in the Marines, and you would think he, of all people, would want to get those. But I have my own little group all the way to Utah, to Tennessee, to Florida, of all the people in AA that contact me or I them every morning. Valerie's here, and we just love talking to each other in the morning. And you know, it's just, and then Brian with hello, spiritual family, you know. And the thing is, I don't get tired of your stories. Even though they're the same words over and over, I never get tired. I've been listening for 42 years, and I don't get tired of it. And like on the days, sorry, I don't follow directions well. And so on the, you know, on the days that something's happened or I don't have time to send those out, all of a sudden everybody starts flooding me with their little things. And it's like, oh, they miss me. And when I was new, I had anxiety so badly waiting for the meeting to start because I had to be in my chair a half hour early. And I would start to hyperventilate until I passed out. And so they would give these ammonia sticks or whatever, smelling salts on each side of me. And when I would pass out, they would crack them. Well, the people in the meeting hated that because it stunk up the whole room. Now, mind you, they were chain smoking. That was okay. But they couldn't stand the mix of the ammonia with the smoke, I guess. And so my grand sponsor told my sponsor, give her a paper bag to blow in. So I would blow in this paper bag, and I would huff and puff, and I would blow in this bag. Now, what do you do when the bag's full? You pop it, right? The second I'd pop it, my head would hit the table. I was out cold. So that just did not work. And when I lost my sponsor at 37 years, I had already been trained, and it was a surprise. And I had already been trained that if you move away or if you lose your sponsor, you have 24 hours to get another sponsor. When I left the Valley Club and came up here, I had explicit orders to check in at, what's the one Boston Joey went to over there? SOS, no, keep it, the one on, I don't know. Anyway, I had to check in there, and then I had to go to the Triangle Club because they were getting my mail. And I also, so I had less than 24 hours to do that. I did not know that the yellow flashing lights meant school zone. And at that time, the meeting was over on Annie Oakley, way the hell in Timbuktu. And it was all rural and everything and rustic. But I had a pool like the triangle does now. Anyway, I drove there from Spring Valley at 100 miles an hour because I heard that this was cowboy country and you could drive whatever whatever the streets would permit. I'm a good driver. I've been doing it forever. And so, I drove through all those school zones and never got a ticket. And it was amazing. There are so many times that God took care of me, and yet I thought that He was a cosmic killjoy that had me, a little fly, under a microscope and just pulling my wings off and my legs and all that all this time. And so we did not have a good relationship. And my sponsor made me write down what I wanted God to look like, what I wanted Him to be. And I was raised in an Orthodox religion. I knew that Old Testament back and forth, boy. And he was the same faith, so he told me to put all that aside and just write down what you would like God to be. And I did that. And then he wrote on the top, Lady Jayne's higher power, and gave it back to me. And he goes, here you go. It was so simple. The hard part was letting go of everything I've always learned. And the fear, every time I fell down, my mother would say, you see, God punished you. And I would think, but I didn't do anything wrong. Oh, you did yesterday. And He knew and He stored it up, you know. And so mine was pretty much a punishing God. And alcohol never worked for me. It never did. I smoked 5 packs a day, the longest cigarettes I could get my hands on, from the time I was 13. And I drank everything I could get my hands on. And then someone told me one day, hey, you want to drink more? If you do these party favors, you can drink and not sleep. And I thought, oh, how cool. Let me tell you what, because I am such a pig. I was 6 feet tall, blonde hair, tan from running around the beach, and I had the cleanest house in California. And I was the smartest. And all real estate brokers did those party favors, and we all drank. And so I thought I blended right in. And but then it stopped working. And I started going to San Fernando. I would start out in the lounges, maybe for an hour or two. And pretty soon I'd end up in Pacoima and San Fernando at a place called Pinky's. And you know what? If I drank a lot, I could speak Spanish beautifully. And they all thought that I was cute. And so did I. And I'm not going to tell you too much about what it was like for me. I did things that to this day give me nightmares. I got caught in situations that only the hand of God could get me out of. And it got to the point where I was strapped on a cross with 48 stitches in one arm and 42 in another, bleeding to death after my fourth child died because it was so toxic from my drinking. And my husband had left me for a woman who was older than me, as he was. And of course, she kept calling every day to tell me how wonderful she was. And poor little girl, you know, me. She even came to the house one day. And, but you know what? One of the first things I heard in AA is if I would have succeeded in killing myself, I would have killed the wrong person. Because I'll guarantee you, I'm definitely not the woman that little street urchin who drank perfume and was bulimic and would do anything for a drink. Boy, I am not that woman today, I'll guarantee it. I'm also not the woman who could care less if you lived or died either. Because I went through a thing where I cared more about you than I cared about myself. Around 3 to 5 years sobriety, I drove myself ragged, taking care of all of you, because like God appointed me, don't you know? And now I've learned to have boundaries. And I never felt comfortable in an AA meeting. I gotta tell you, for over 30 years, I hated going to AA. I went every damn day, and I hated it. Even when I was traveling in New Zealand or wherever, Australia, I went to a meeting because I was afraid not to. But I hated it. I never felt like I fit in. And I couldn't fit in the bars either anymore. And let me caution you, for the first 8 years of my sobriety, I repeated almost everything I did out there while I was drinking because I wasn't working my program yet. And I did everything I was told. By the grace of God, I never went back out because I didn't want to let you down. But I'll tell you what, I came in with colitis. I could not eat. I had to have we had a thing where if you ate 9 almonds a day, you were nutritionally satisfied with a bottle of water. And if my sponsor, because I was hypoglycemic because of all the alcohol, so my sponsor would wrap up little strips of carrots and celery and chicken or cheese. So every 3 hours I could have protein and some kind of nutrition. And anyway, when I got out here, well, even there was a guy named Ziggy, and he would drive us up to Tehachapi State Prison. And you know, in California, if you take money, if you're the treasurer of an AA meeting or whatever, and you steal from that AA meeting, at least back then, you got 2 years in prison automatically for biting the hand that feeds you. And the judges were very strict about that. And anyway, I would go to Tehachapi twice a month and hang out with all the guys. It was so much fun. And we would stop on the way there. I would have a baked potato because that's all my little stomach could handle. And coming back, it was like I remember the first time I saw the stars. He had one of those Cadillacs that the roof opened up. And I saw these lights in the sky, and I thought, oh, what's happening? Well, what are those lights for? Because it's all high desert out there, too. And the guy in front, Ziggy, said, oh, baby, those aren't lights. Those are stars. I hadn't seen them in so long, I forgot what they were. And when I got out here, I got into H&I right away. I had 30 days when they made me start going to prisons out there. And so before 30 days was up, went in and saw Jack Fisher, and he gave me all these books, because we didn't have to pay for them then. Gave me all these books, and he goes, off you go. And Donna Robinson and I, every single week, went in to CCDC and met with the girls. And I would like to tell you that I was a picture of AA and that I was an attraction. But I hated the guards, maybe from my past. I would fight with them. And Donna would freak out because she thought I was going to get us kicked out because there were cameras everywhere. And I called them bad names. And they would lock me in with the prisoners and leave me there for 3-4 hours at a time, which was fine with me. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, I would wait for them to get out of the back. And I said, I will take you over to Vicky's and get you one of those hamburgers with the mushrooms and the onions and everything, and make them just want it so bad. And I would pick them up and take them there. And then from there, we would sit there all night till 7 in the morning. Then I would take them to a halfway house. And a lot of those girls are still clean and sober. After 30 days, they had to go to school, get their GED, and get a job. But for the first 30 days, they got to just live in AA and let us wrap them up in love, because until they were ready to love themselves. And, you know, Lena Horne once said, for those of you men, I guess, read this, it's not the load that breaks you down, it's how you carry it. And AA has taught me to have these broad shoulders, because they're not mine. They're my higher powers. I love that footsteps in the sand. And I got to tell you, during this past 42 years, almost all those footsteps were only one set. And we had another poem that they used to read a lot about this little girl who brought her doll to the doll maker. And she said, could you fix my doll? And a week later, she came back and she goes, why didn't you fix my doll? And the doll maker said, my dear, you never let go. And the reason they told me that over and over was because my whole body and soul would ache for a drink. It would just ache. I thought I was going to die without one. Now, remind you, I got skinny, oily hair, blotches all over my body and everything else. And I'm crying for a drink to make it better, right? Not that this is how I got there in the first place. I had the privilege of going to some of my meetings with Dr. Paul, who wrote Dr. Addict, Alcoholic, and I don't know what the new chapter is called. Acceptance is the answer, I think. And one day, he just came up to me, and for those of you who know, he looked like Alfred Hitchcock. His little nose up and all that, and little pork belly. And he came up to me and he said, Lady Jayne, if you don't let go of the bottle, you're never going to have peace. And he goes, stop thinking about that bottle. Let that thought just keep on going. Don't dwell on it. I go, well, what am I supposed to do instead? And he said, all those phone numbers that were put in your purse. We didn't have cell phones, folks. And I thought they were Ma's. Because I would get home and open up my purse and all these little papers would come out. And I thought, why are there so many bugs in my purse? And I would dump them out. And I didn't know they were phone. Well, I didn't read yet when I got here. I learned how to read in the big book. And Jack White, a famous drummer, he was my first client. And Arnold had me list his house for sale. Great house. He was a musician. And I was sitting, I said to Jack, I go, I got to call my sponsor. And he goes, okay, there's a phone in the bedroom, go ahead. And he walked in the bedroom, and I'm walking back and forth, and I'm crying and crying. I go, I don't know how to do this. We only had a 2-page contract. And so Jack walked in, he goes, it's going to be okay. It'll be okay. Well, we took a white piece of paper. We went down line at a time between my sponsor on the phone and Jack, and we filled out the contract. After that, I had a house for almost $1 million, but I didn't know how to write $1 million, so I had to take $1 off. So it could be 99999. And I'm still bad with numbers. That part, well, as you know, I don't know my sobriety date, but everything I am is because of you and people like you. And even now at 42 years, I get crazy. Someone hurts my feelings, because you know how sensitive we are. And I will be on the phone with Keith, and I trained him, if I call, boy, you answer now, because I'm desperate. And he's really good sponsor now. It took me a month to train him, but now he's perfect. He is perfect. And perfect for me. So I just, between the Thai Club, Quality Air, and all the ones who have gone before me, the Triangle Club, oh, can they give a luau? I'm telling you, so much fun. And I'm at peace most of the time. And I'm not going to lie to you. More of my memory came back as I got more and more sober. And sometimes I still get nightmares about things that happened to me because I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I just have to thank God that He spared me. And at the time, I didn't know why. I've only spoken twice in 42 years. So if I'm all over the place, it's not my fault. It's Gail's fault. So, you know, and yeah, I still point the finger. And this guy, Eric, oh my God, what a life he went through. And every day he sends me his gratitude list. And he always thanks God, little ethnic background just came out there. He always praises God for the fact that his recovery has given him value and purpose. And I'll tell you, I still love the 12 and 12. It's my favorite. And I still love the 24-hour day and bars and bar stools and all that because I'm an old-timer. But I love hearing one of my favorites. Jayne was telling us one day about this newcomer. And she kept saying, I think I should, and I this, and I that, and I that. And her sponsor said to her, I think your eyes are a little too close together. And this poor girl sat in front of mirrors for a week and measuring how close her eyes should be and asking everybody, do you think they're too close together? Stuff like that makes me roar with laughter now. But when I was new, I got that. I got that because it was all about, they always said my favorite song was me, 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 you know, and I was very grateful that all our meetings in California had food because it's the only time I ate. You know, I came in 6 feet tall, weighing 130 pounds, and I looked like skin on a hanger. And the weird thing is that before that, I got up to 400 pounds. And I was walking around in muumuus, thank you, Hawaiians, you know, so. And my sponsor, just because it was him, would not let me take any mind-altering chemicals, so I never got to go. They wanted us to take drugs, and they would, Xanax and everything, and that would help me lose weight, and that would help me be at peace. And my sponsor said, you can do what you want, but I can't sponsor you because I don't know who I'm talking to, you know? And people like Marv Rosenthal and your sponsor, Rosemary. Oh my gosh, Rosemary was so damn tough, but she got married like, what, 6 times or something. Cute little blonde, you know, bouncing around. And then she came out here and got heavier. It wasn't so cute anymore, but still mean, you know? And I just, it took every minute and second of you guys holding my hands, of you guys listening to me, of you guys not letting me leave no matter what. There were times that people made me so mad, I would get up and run out of the meeting. And the bartenders in the meeting would follow me and say, hey, Lady Jayne, if you get in the car, I'll tell you a joke. And I thought, okay. Oh, yeah, that's so stupid. Anyway, but I got in their car and we would drive around and they would tell me. And my brain was so gone, I can't even remember what it was I was upset about in the first place, you know? And that's the wonderful thing about AA. If you put a little space in between, I usually forget everything anyway. And they told me to hold on to my seat. I'd be in for a ride of my life, beyond my wildest dreams. And boy, I gotta tell you, I have 4 other children now, 4 daughters. Apples don't fall far from the tree. And so each one of them has a phase of my disease. But I learned in AA to accept them the way they are. And yet now they seem to be coming around a little. And Father Sean, who has passed, when I was new, he took my face and he held it up so I could look in his eyes. In California, a lot of men are a lot taller than 6 feet, so it was easy. And he said, you must remember, thou shalt not should on thyself. You don't use those words. Why didn't you? How could you? When are you going? All those judgment words. And I learned to knock them out of my vocabulary right in the beginning. And my children left when I got sober. They were under 5 and they left. And I guess they stayed across the street with this guy Royce, who already had sobriety, and he would feed them and blah, blah, blah. But at my 1 year, when I got that little tiny candle on top of that cake, all four of my daughters were standing at the back door. And I got up there and I said, I'm Lady Jayne and I'm an alcoholic. Thank you. And I sat down. And that's my message. I'm Lady Jayne and I'm an alcoholic and I thank you. That's it.